Okay, here we go, guys. Here's yet another one. This is just more evidence for you guys to see that this is a habit, it's a pattern of behavior, and it's not going to stop until we the people start making it stop. And in order to do that, obviously more and more people need to die. It's just a matter of who's going to be next, because the woman who got shot here, there's no longer coming back. She might have thought the same, well, you know, it's not going to happen to me, and then look what happened. So as you can see by the title here, it says everything you need to know. Police body camera footage released of pregnant black woman being shot and killed by Ohio police officers. Now, just take that word police officer away and just hear shot and killed. What would be your reaction? But as soon as you add that term police officer, changes how people see it. They always think, oh, well, she deserved it. That's the mentality, right? And it's about who really deserves to die by one individual's hand. How do they become the judge, jury, and executioner? That's the question that needs to be asked. What gives people the belief that someone can have that power? How do we get into that mindset? Because that's the mental prison that needs unpacking. So before I move into the story, I'm just going to give a quick refresher with Lark and Rose, just because that's going to help set up what's actually happened here.
That it only occurred to me fairly recently that you see all these videos of cops shooting people. First of all, there are a lot of them. And whether there's one down in Florida where there's a guy running away and a cop shoots him in the back. He's unarmed and he's running away and they shoot him in the back. And then there's all the things of, well, he pulled out his wallet and we thought it was a gun. And when cops constantly lie under oath about what happened. I mean, I can't even count how many videos I've seen where here is their sworn statement of what happens, and then the video comes out and shows the cop totally lied his ass off.
That's critical, guys, that piece of information. I'm not going to go further down this one because I've played it in previous videos, but that piece of information is absolutely critical. I'm just going to add one more thing just so you can get some background. So when you see the actual footage of what I want to show you, hopefully you'll be able to see through how they structure it and how they give these police officers a way out, and they're actually coaching the mind into that. But I just need to show you this one other bit. So as you can see here, this is what happened when I put up a search for aggravated assault. It came up explaining all the different ways that it's assessed through the legal system. Remember what the legal system is? It's codified law. It's someone's prejudices and biases that's been now turned into like fact, just because, you know, it got given some kind of ritual expression. So it says assault on certain individuals. Now remember the word individual, it's really important here because we're all individuals, but there's some that are more equal than others, if you know what I mean. In some jurisdictions, because jurisdiction is just something that's created by the legal system, just so we understand that, assaulting certain protected, really hear that word, individuals such as law enforcement officers, healthcare workers, or public officials can lead to aggravated assault charges. Now, if that was an individual that didn't have a title, right, all of a sudden an assault is an assault. But as soon as you have assaulted someone who's a servant, right, really think about that, that's like saying you've hired people to come do a job for you, right, so they're going to give you some kind of service, and then all of a sudden they have a higher standing than you. Their lives are more important than yours. Think about that, guys. Really sit with that. How is that possible? On what actual planet where there's sanity and morality could that be possible? How is that a system of all of us are equal? So you can see how they've done it, right? They've gotten all the personnel that they need to violate you. They need to give them protection so they can keep violating you with impunity. It's right there in your face, right? And now we're going to see what it looks like in real time when you've got all those factors come together and melted together. This is what you get.
Unfortunately, we're talking about this disturbing police body cam footage now that's just been released. It's showing the final moments of a pregnant black woman's life. Takaya Young was shot and killed by officers in an Ohio grocery store parking lot last week. We froze the video just before the shooting occurred, but we still want to warn you that it's going to be pretty difficult to watch.
Then get out. No, then get out.
Get out of the car.
Get out of the car.
Get out of the car.
Get out of the car!
Shots fired.
Shots fired! Stop the damn car!
Look how quickly that happened, right? There was one there saying, get out of the car. The other one just came in, guns out, straight away, you know what I mean, and started shooting. What did you see any provocation there? And now, if you're an individual, right, and if you suspected somebody of shoplifting, does you get the right to shoot them? Who would have that right? So why is it any different just because you're wearing a badge? This is the mental illness, guys. If people don't start getting past this mental illness, this will keep happening. And if you allow people to be murderers, they will continue murdering. This is what needs to change. It needs to be understood in your mind what it is, how it is, for what is actually happening in reality. Not the contorted version that most people have swallowed, but as it is. You pull a gun out, no matter what kind of clothing you have on, you are now threatening somebody's life. And if you follow through, you have taken their life. Now, is that an equal exchange? Suspecting someone might have stolen a few goods, and that means their life now is worth, taking for that. Now, imagine if this individual did want to drive away like they're going to claim she did. Is that worth shooting them for? Really? I mean, you could just catch them somewhere else down the track if it was really important, right? Is it worth killing them? These are the questions that each of us need to ask, because if we are moral people, if we really are, there's one standard for everybody. There's no two standards. There's no double standards. It doesn't exist. And if we allow the double standards, then this is going to keep happening, right? The laws of nature are such that more misery and suffering is going to be piled on top of us. And the way things have been going lately in the last 3 years, right? If we don't actually start doing this together as a unified force, like there's very little chance of anything improving. And it's just going to get worse, because these people, the ones that hold the guns, right? They're the ones that are getting in the way. They are the ones that are holding the whole structure, the criminal structure, together, because they're the ones who oppress us. They come from us, but they get given the weapons to oppress the people they come from. That's the sickness that needs to be eradicated, and it can only be done by each individual who has a moral compass, who comes and stands in defense of truth for what it is, as it is, not for the contorted version they've been sucked into believing is true. And now I'm just going to show you Larkin we're actually going to finish listening to what they say, because you'll see how the legal system actually starts setting it up, right? Listen to this.
That 21-year-old's name is Takaya Young and was suspected of shoplifting in the Columbus suburb. Well, the mother of two was shot and killed after police say she accelerated her car toward an officer trying to stop her. Now
remember what Larkin said earlier, how they lie their asses off, right? I didn't see that happen. Did you see her speeding off? I didn't. Right? So they'll even lie right in front of your face, right? And like I said, even if she did, which she didn't, it's not hard for him to step aside. It really isn't. But this is like, you must obey me. I am your master. This is that mentality, right? If you don't, no one's going to stop me from killing you, and I'll be fine. If he knew that he was accountable, there's no way he would have pulled that trigger. Never would have pulled the gun out. Would have had a whole different tactic. It's because they're allowed to. And that's the problem. And the only way they're allowed to is the people stand by and witness it and don't do anything about it. And if you witness it and do nothing about it, it's the same as you giving your consent to it. No different. And that means that you are just as culpable as the one who's pulled the trigger. Okay, so we're going to listen to the legal system, the woman that's representing the legal system. And you'll see she starts setting it up in your mind how this, it's a bit of grey area. You'll see how they do it. They're already coaching people into how they're going to run this, because there's never, ever been any real system of justice, ever.
Born child did not survive. London Township Police Chief said in a statement on Wednesday that the department was reviewing and redacting the video before its release. The chief also saying that he spoke to the family's attorney and that he's appreciative of his help coordinating with the family during this difficult time. Joining me now to talk about this, former homicide prosecutor and criminal defense attorney Bernarda Villalona. So, Bernarda, I guess first of all, I just want to get your reaction to the video from a legal standpoint.
Very difficult to watch this video because there are no winners in this case. Unfortunately, the life of a 21-year-old woman was lost, and then the question is someone criminally responsible for it?
Really? That's a question? Unbelievable. You see what I mean? Anyway, keep listening.
I can see the arguments on both sides.
So now it's down to an argument, not a statement of fact of what actually happened. but argument. See, as soon as you start saying argument, you're going into a mental construct. So she's setting it up already.
It's an issue of fact. Did this officer believe that his life was in imminent danger of death or serious bodily injury?
So see how she's saying it? Like now, this officer, whatever he believes, now gets taken as having some higher importance. Because what about the rest of us and what we believe and what we act on? Do you see the difference here? So they give this privilege to someone who carries a gun and a badge that nobody else gets. Well, how is that a system of service? How is that a public servant? That's like I said, if you hired people to come do a job for you, if they are all of a sudden allowed to like physically molest you because for some reason they have a higher standing than you just because you've hired them. It's the same thinking. Now, who would allow that, right? That's the kind of thinking it needs to be understood as before people can start moving forward and progressing. Because if you're still starting to believe, wow, they've taken this, this big responsibility and they, they're more important than everyone else because if we don't have them, we can't be safe. All that kind of stuff. Well, this is what you get when you start believing that. You get murder. And it's sanctioned by the people. And then we all pay for this because it'll just keep happening. And what about this woman and her 2 young children and the unborn baby? Who cares about that, right? What's it going to be like for their kids, for her kids from this point onwards? Who's going to bring all that back? This is the real important questions that need to be looked at seriously, guys. Put yourself in that position that you are the child of that mother. What about the unborn baby? All this misery and suffering that's now in place that's going to change the course of their lives that can never be brought back. That's what that guy took in his hands when he took that bullet and put it into her body. This is the mental illness that needs to be eradicated, guys. And if we're not serious about it, then we're just going to keep getting more misery.
And if that's the case, then there wouldn't be any charges. Then if you look at from the side of the victim here, was she nervous? Was she scared? Was she intending to actually drive through the officer and injure the officer? That's a question that we probably will never know.
See that kind of stuff? Look, seriously, shouldn't even be a question. See how she's doing it? They're already setting it up to find a way out. This is what they do. This is that mental trickery. Because the problem is, it's not being assessed for how it is from conscience. It's all from an intellectual argument. And that's something that changes reality based on who's better at arguing. That's got nothing to do with justice. And that's how the legal system was created, to just bamboozle people and get into some kind of structured argument, as opposed to, what did you see happen? Was there any justification for pulling a gun out in the first place? Because there was no threat. She had no weapons. Do you know what I mean? So why were you justified to pull one out? That in itself, you should be jailed just for doing that, because no one else could get away with it. This is what's allowed, right? You need to start seeing this whole legal system, how corrupt it really is, and how it's done deliberately to conceal those who wish to harm others and get pleasure from it, right? This is what that woman's job is, to do that.
So is there anything about this shooting that could be seen in that video, right? And there's always more to the video. There's minutes, before and after.
So she's saying there's more to the video. No, there was a gun pulled out for no reason whatsoever, had no justification, and within seconds that woman was dead. Like, what more do you need to see? There was no threat to anybody, and you just decided to shoot her. Come on, seriously. This is where they contort reality, and it's about, can we start being honest with ourselves? That's what's really up for grabs here.
Seeing this part, but from what you could see, anything there justifiable, or do you think these officers...
See how she's trying to weave that in? Justifiable. See how they're planting it? This is what we really need to start looking at, guys, how they start planting ideas where there is no reality like this anywhere else other than when they start planting it in your mind, and then that starts contorting how you see things from a perspective of consciousness and morality. Your mind gets in there because they're planting these ideas in there, and this is how they do it. It's very subtle, but if you pay attention, it's right in your face.
Will face charges, and do you need to see the rest of the video?
So I do need to see additional video footage and actually probably play that video a couple more times, because there is the question of fact, that being, where was the officer exactly at the moment where Miss Young accelerated her vehicle?
Look, what accelerated? There's barely any movement. Where was he? He could step aside. Do you know what I mean? He's not. He's not the Lord Master. If he's in danger, normal people just step aside. It's really not hard. But he's like, no, you can't move because I'm the boss and you must do as I say. That's what this is, a massive power trip, and someone had to die, right? You think about that, if that was one of your family members, you'd be okay, well, she might have accelerated. Oh, well, where was he standing? All that stuff. See what she's doing? This is what the legal system does. It takes reality and contorts it and inverts it. And they make up these ideas, which they call precedents, and they're made up by people who believe themselves to be superior so they can get out of the crimes they commit. That's what this is about. And it's about whether we, the people, wish to mature enough to see reality for how it is, not the way we've been trained like good little monkeys to clap to. Right? That's what this is about. And she'll say something about a grand jury, but her job is to justify why she's ever needed. If we were living in a correct system where there was law actually being adhered to, there would be no people like this. It would be we, the people, who use our conscience, right, and our moral compass that come together in a trial by jury structure, and we assess it all, right? And premeditated intent. Did that officer have premeditated intent? Could he have evaded from that position, right? Did he really need to pull his gun out? All those things are really obvious, right? If he was really fearing for his life, the first course of action, if you want to preserve life, is to get out of the way. That's not hard, right? These are the questions that he's never going to get asked, because there's this insistence that these people have more rights than others, right? That means they're above the law. That's what this is about. This is hiding the true criminality of having a protected class that are above the law, and it's right there in your face. And she's going to say something about a grand jury.
And
now.
did she accelerate after or before he actually went in front of this vehicle? I think because there's an issue of fact, there still has to be additional investigation. The question would be is whether the district attorney's office would put this case before a grand jury and let a grand jury determine the issue of fact, whether it was reasonable for this officer to fire into a moving vehicle, if the vehicle was actually moving at that time.
You see how absurd that is, right? If it was reasonable. It's never reasonable to shoot anyone dead. Never. Unless there was no other reason that your survival is actually imminent. Like there was no weapon. That's the only time you have a chance at, But if there was no weapon, she's sitting there peacefully, how could you say that's reasonable? Like really, if your life is not under threat. If you can evade the situation where someone's unarmed and you're armed, that's an imbalance of power right there. That's an abuse of power. It's not an equal exchange. These things aren't going to be looked at. They're not going to raise all that stuff. It's about we, the people, who have the courage to do that. And if we don't, we're going to keep sucking it. And it's only a matter until it's someone else's turn, and it could be something you care about.
The whole legal system and all their written crap, the entire purpose of the written system of law is not what you were taught in school. The entire purpose of the written system of law is to pretend to the subject class that it's actually knowable and applies to everybody, and that there are principles involved, and that it's predictable, and there's fairness, and there's due process. No, there's a whole bunch of legalese noise to hide the fact that they do whatever the hell they want, and the only limitation is at what point the people will actually resist.
That's what it comes down to, guys. Again, are you ready to say enough's enough? And if you are, there's a campaign going on right now that is being about covering every single police station across the country and handing them this information about their criminality, and that we know what they're doing and what they're individually accountable for. There is no protection for them under the legal system that they created to protect their crimes. That doesn't exist, right? It's about penetrating into their consciousness as an individual, not as a big gang, because that's where they got all their, all that sort of feeling that they're immune and above it, right? This is about getting into their minds as an individual. And if they all get it, every single police station, right, that's going to mean something. So it's whether you are willing to get in and back it and actually take action. And if you have people that you know are just as keen, you can organize yourselves and start having a methodical approach, a systematic approach, and cover, maybe your entire city, or you can cover one half of your state. There's all different ways you can go about it, right? And if you're ready for that, then there's some quick information here for you. So if you're ready to act, guys, you just go to magnacarta1215.com. There it is. You'll click on News and Articles. This will take you here, and then you just scroll down, and you'll see here there's a cover letter to download, and then there's the 12 points. It's like a flyer. So just showing the cover letter. There it is up here. It's always officer in charge, because that way it goes to whoever's the highest ranking officer on that day when they get the mail. The red part is just showing the editable bits, so you would change that obviously in accordance with the station that you're sending to, and then just change to black after that. But I just want to scroll down quickly. I want to go to this bit here where it talks about what's coming for them down the pike when enough people work it out, and the correct system that we're supposed to be working under, which is trial by jury, where the people assess the crimes committed against them, because they're the victims of it. So who's better to assess it than we're the victims, and the consciousness of the community, because there's a neutral space there. So it just says that, they won't be standing in front of any government appointed judges, magistrates or court officers, because they're their protection right. They've created a legal protection network, which is just a way to conceal crime. So that will be gone. They won't have that. And then it just says what's coming from them down the pike is the things that they're looking at: trespass, assaults, thefts, extortions, threats with menaces, malfeasance in public office, etc. Are most severe for sworn officers of the law who brazenly and without apparent remorse assume the role of criminals, which is pretty much what they're doing, hands down. There's not one there that could get away with it. The office offences extend all the way to sedition, which means publicly denying the validity of the Constitution, and misprision of treason and high treason, which carry respectively the punishments of full asset stripping and life in prison or even the gallows. Then it goes on to say 2 final points for consideration. 1, people who commit crimes at the behest of others are always vulnerable to the risk that the order givers might decide to tidy up loose ends by disposing of the order followers preemptively. An example of which is given in the second QR code. And the other one is, most people are of the type willing to grant clemency to those who display remorse or are willing to assist in the apprehension or cessation of ongoing crimes. So it's just signed Commonwealth Constitutional Alliance. So it's all covered, guys. You don't have to put your name to it, anything like that. And there's the 12 points there. I've covered it in previous videos. So that's all the QR codes that are on there. I'm not going to read into it too much. You guys can read it into your own time. It's pretty potent, powerful. So that's all I wanted to show you. So if you're ready to back it, it's all done for you. You just need to put it together and shove it in an envelope. And you've got instructions on the website of how to do that.